Hello there. Once again, it's Anton from Anton Bay. Thank you for stopping by the collection room. Today, we're taking a look at some more Alpha Flight comics. We're going to slowly but surely get our way through the entire 130 issues, the full run of the original series. There is at times where it is a bit of a slog, just because Alpha Flight was not the greatest book. It's just one I happen to like. And so I have to chuckle at this, of all things, because you have this call out on the front just gets me. At last, China Force. Because I remember the people lining up in the streets with signs demanding China Force, marching around the Marvel offices saying, "Where is China Force?" in our comics. It was on every letter page. I don't remember any of that because nobody knows who this is and they don't care. This is The Wrath of the Dream Queen. Part 3 of 4. It wasn't a terrible story arc. Script was James Hudnall, John Calamy, Hilary Barta, Janice Chang, Bob Sharon colors. John Calamy, that was your artist. And of course your dream chief, Tom DeFalco. So this is a DeFalco era book. Like I said, art not that bad, but it is kind of nice. At least the Canadians are fighting another team instead of themselves. So if they're fighting China Force, that's probably good for everybody, as opposed to just sitting around fighting themselves. Does he have to turn into a chair every time they fly? Are they flying him? I can't remember. I think it usually is him. He just transforms into their ship. Yeah. Whew. It's early already. It's very early this morning, guys. Maybe it's too early to be tying into Alpha Flight because, man. So one thing I have complained about before, amongst many things about Alpha Flight, is you don't give us the cool Canadian locations. Like, give us cool, like, show us where you're at, you know, really highlight some of your spots. Because, I mean, there was some beautiful area in Canada and some pretty decent cities and stuff like that. Go there. Show us that. This is 2nd Street and Heights, or High Street. That is the Simpsons home, if I've ever seen it. Sitting in the background there. And I like how we just vaguely touch upon all of this violence going on amongst the city, as opposed to actually getting our hands dirty reading up on it. We got Purple Girl getting throttled by a cat man. Or no, sorry. That's Sasquatch? That's a terrible Sasquatch picture. Looked like a freaking cat guy. I don't know what they're thinking. Is this must be the huge, like, Edmonton Mall. So at least they're using some sort of landmark. I think it's in Edmonton that has the giant mall. At least utilize that. Because then if you go to Canada, you'd be like, oh, that's where that was. You want China? No. You want China? I'll give you China. And he opens it up. There's China. It's China Force. Madison. Kind of a weird wrap up to a big story arc like that. I mean, I guess we got one thing of the Dream Queen left, but Gru the Wanderer. What primitive, like, screwy art done so amazingly. I loved his work. Humorous. SheHulk has an interesting proposition for you. I always liked this cover. This was the first cover of SheHulk. Basically, she threatens that if you don't buy her book, she'll rip up your X-Men comics. 50 issues later, when her book gets canceled, they go back to that cover and she says, okay, we had a deal. That was actually when John Byrne was doing great work. He did really good work with SheHulk. I don't really like his work on Alpha Flight. I know he created them. I know that it was kind of like his baby. But if, like, there's almost like no passion in his early John Byrne run, the first year or whatever that he worked on this book. It's like he didn't want to. And from everything I've heard, he didn't want to. He did not want to screw with it. And basically nobody was interested in writing Alpha Flight. And other writers would make fun of it. Other comic book characters from other things would make fun of it. Oh my goodness. Look, that's her eyes. Oh, that's gross. Super gross. I don't hate this art though. It's kind of, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of Nexus. If you've ever read like Nexus art from First Comics, this has a little bit of that sharp, clean, cartoonish vibe to it. Maybe even some like Justice Machine stuff that was put out by Comico. I'm seeing some similarities. So this is probably one of the better long-standing villains that they had, which was the Dream Queen. They had a pretty decent big old fight with her. Basically, she could turn like everybody mad and insane on the streets. And so they had to get Elizabeth back on the team in order to take her out. But that was pretty nice. Talisman. We're on the same ads 2 months in a row. That's kind of weird, Marvel. Marvel jackets. I feel like I'd be super styling in one of those. Number 71, The Resurrection of the Sorceress. Canada's deadly supernatural secret pawns. So they did fight a lot of sorceress type stuff and sorcery type stuff in Alpha Flights. I feel like they could have fleshed out some better villains that always just going back to a mystical source. You could have written some, and they had the Master, but like for some reason they stopped using that character, even though it was a pretty interesting villain. But maybe the big M on his head just kind of looked more like Magneto, and nobody wanted to deal with it. But you could have made some reoccurring villains that would have been better than what they did. Honestly, it's the worst. The biggest enemies Alpha Flight has is themselves. They're either always fighting each other or fighting funding with the Canadian government. I love it when they put Heather in green. They always put Heather in like this very similar green and white outfit. Looks quite good. Wow. Just Strangler. Yeah, because everybody just has to kill their wife over a weird idol that they find in the Canadian woods. Ugh. Ah, he's drinking it. That's disgusting. Oh, Alpha Flight, why are you like this? You have some good moments, you keep rolling, and then it's just like, ugh. Moon Knight. All right, so you're running the same profile. 3 months in a row? What? Come on, guys, come on. Evil Confrontation. This guy was, I think, a villain that lasted a while. This is issue 72. Which, by the way, this is 1989. Endgame, wow. Madison, you look really sad. Your box suit looks wasted. Oh, and his ex-wife, Diamond Lil. Okay, that was a pretty cool aspect, having his, like, Diamond Lil, his ex-wife, come back and join the team. And it's just kind of it's a fun, like, awkward dynamic. Plus, she always kind of reminded me, like, of more of a grumpy white trash Carrie Fisher type character. Every time they show Diamond Lil, I always picture you can just smell the cigarettes on her. Let's see here. I remember this guy. I'm struggling with his name. I have read through this, like I've said numerous times. This is the third time I've owned this entire series. And I always sell it because I think, I hate Alpha Flight. And then I get rid of it. And then I'm like, man, I miss Alpha Flight. So it's definitely a love-hate relationship with the whole series. That's a beautiful, big one-page shot. Blowing box up. hopefully with not Madison inside. And I'm also going to say the art here is really picking up from what it was in the last couple issues. Like, this is some really great looking stuff. And it looks like we're jumping to a different artist again. Alpha Waves. At least we got a different art profile. Yeah, same artist 3 months in a row. That's weird. Atlantis Attacks, Marvel Annuals, The War, the beginning of the end. Oh, it's New Universe stuff, probably. Moon Knight by Chuck Dixon. I was never into Moon Knight. I just don't care, I guess. Doctor Strange. Never a big Doctor Strange fan either. There were some weird eras with Marvel in general. Anyway, that's the next 4 issues. We will keep continuing through Alpha Flight. We are over at the halfway point, so we've passed 70, which I think actually no, we passed the halfway point in the last issue, in the last Alpha Flight video. Speaking of the last Alpha Flight video, if you want to go through the rest of the Alpha Flight series and just like page by page, look at everything that was done and produced, go back. There's a playlist. It'll have all the Alpha Flights in it. It will eventually have every issue of Alpha Flight in it, and we'll conclude the series. So that is it. That's my story. That's the Alpha Flights for today, and I thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you guys later. Bye.